This one is intriguing to me. There's been so much talk about the Texans potentially trading Jadeveon Clowney if and when he ever signs his franchise tender. The word out of Miami, and this comes from Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, the Texans have discussed sending Clowney and a first-round draft pick. And I did say that correctly. Clowney plus a first-rounder to the Dolphins for Laremy Tunsil. The Dolphins actually want another high draft pick for Laremy Tunsil. What in the world is going on where the Dolphins would want that much for a guy that we're never going to confuse with Anthony Munoz?
Well, because you saw the report that the players would revolt. I think building a team, building chemistry from Brian Flores has a huge task here. The Dolphins do not have a lot of talent. They do not have a culture. If Laremy Tunsil is one of your culture guys, you need to keep him, and he's controlled for a couple more years. I actually think that it makes sense what the Texans are trying to do. If they get Laremy Tunsil, what's the Texans' biggest issue? It's protecting Deshaun Watson, and they haven't been able to do it correctly. To start his career, he's been hurt. He's gotten injured in key, spots. So this trade makes sense for the Texans. And actually, I'm going to say it, Mike. Saying no from the Dolphins or asking for more from the Dolphins side, I agree with as well. Because if Laremy Tunsil is your locker room culture guy, you need to keep those pieces because there's probably not a lot of them. And adding Clowney, what does that do for you? Clowney is a perfect fit for a team. He's not Khalil Mack, but a similar situation where it's like, this is our last piece. An Eagles, a Jets, a Seahawks. What are the Dolphins trying to do right now? Nothing. They're trying to tank to get a quarterback. So adding a guy like Clowney makes no sense from their perspective. What does make sense is asking for the moon, seeing if you'll get it, because the Texans might be desperate and say, hey, we want to win right now and we want to protect Deshaun Watson. So if the Dolphins can get draft picks, draft capital, why not do it?
Two quick observations, and then we got to take a break. First of all, this idea that there'd be a revolt in the locker room, I don't think Brian Flores is going to react to that well, because what the locker room wants does not matter. What matters is what Brian Flores and Chris Grier, the GM of the Dolphins, believe is in the best interest of the team. And if Flores has already entertained the idea of trading Laremy Tunsil, this is the kind of thing that can make him more determined to do it, just to send a message to his players. And secondly, if you're Jadeveon Clowney and you're seeing that the Texans are willing to package you and a first-round pick for Laremy Tunsil, Jadeveon Clowney had better sign that franchise tender, because there's a chance that the next step on the flow chart for the Texans is to just cut bait, rescind it, and make him a free agent. Good luck getting $17 million on the open market for 2019 if they rescind the franchise tag this weekend. Real quick, and then we got to take a break.
Okay, you couldn't be more wrong about the locker room thing. I think the locker room does matter when you're a new coach, when you're a coach who's coming from the Belichick Patriots system and everyone already expects you to be a surly person who might not be a player coach. I think winning that locker room and having guys feel like they can trust the bigger plan, because you're not going to win. You're not going to win this year, so you need them to love you right now for other reasons. So going against that, I think that matters a lot, and I think you're way off on that.
So like if one of your players calls out Jay-Z publicly, you wouldn't play 8 straight Jay-Z songs the next day at practice. That's what you're saying. I got to go. I got the last word.
If you don't think that move hurts the locker room chemistry and everyone's belief in Brian Flores, you're crazy, Mike. You're crazy.
But he did it. He did it. He made the world different.
And it hurt.
All right, we're calling an audible, and we are going to continue the discussion we had at the end of the last segment on Brian Flores, the potential trade of Laremy Tunsil, whether the locker room would revolt, and whether he should respond to that by saying, I don't care if you're going to revolt. I'm the coach of the team. I decide what's best for the team. Don't go running to reporters, unnamed sources saying there'll be a revolt and he's a great guy and we can't not have him on the team. This is my call, not your call. Big Cat, you seem to disagree with my take that this will make Flores even more determined, if he's already decided to move on from Laremy Tunsil, to go ahead and do it.
I couldn't disagree more, because here's where you're coming at, and I understand where you're thinking about it from. You're thinking about it, Brian Flores is going to have this job for 15, 20 years like Bill Belichick. And the guys on the roster now won't be there in 5 years, so who really cares about a revolt? But that's not today's NFL. If Brian Flores fails this year and fails, he's going to fail this year because they're going to be bad. But if he fails to a spectacular level this year and he fails next year, he might not get a third year. If he fails a third year, he might not get a fourth year. It's so quick how the front offices, the owners, have that finger on the trigger. They're going to change coaches. Stephen Ross doesn't care. I mean, he has money. What does he care about paying a coach to go away? And what you don't understand, if you see it from all the Belichick disciples, where these guys have failed, it's because they've tried to be a mini Belichick and tried to be the surly, it's my system, players have to fit into the system, not the other way around. Look at what Josh McDaniels did. I know some people who were on that Josh McDaniels Broncos team. They said that he walked in, he thought he knew everything. He completely disrupted the flow of the locker room and everything, the ecosystem that is the players. And everyone from that point on said, this guy's an idiot and we can't trust him. And I think you completely underestimate the trust level a player needs to have in a coach, that what he's doing is going to work, and buying in on that.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. The reality, though, is Brian Flores is 37 years old. His entire coaching career had been with Bill Belichick. I don't think you have a different perspective to even relate to. This is the guy you're around. This is how you see football teams being managed. This is how you see a reaction from a coach when someone in the locker room tries to tell the coach how it's going to be. I don't think Brian Flores is capable of running a team any other way. That's why he went with 8 straight Jay-Z songs after Kenny Stills criticized Jay-Z at his locker the day before. This is a guy who has no other way of understanding how a football team works, doing what he knows. And you know what? It's worked for him because it got him a head coaching job. So I just don't think that these guys can wipe the Belichick influence out of their brains, especially not in their first year as head coaches.
So we agree on the fact that Brian Flores is going to be like a mini Belichick, but you are agreeing.
I'm saying he's not doing it by choice. He's not doing it by choice. It's just who he is.
That's fair. And I just think that there is this really tricky thing that happens whenever a Belichick guy goes out, gets his own team.
I agree.
Having guys buy in because you don't have the championship rings. No one cares about Belichick's Super Bowl rings when you're Matt Patricia, when you're Brian Flores, when you're Josh McDaniels.
You got to get the rings in order to be Belichick. And if you don't get the rings, you're not going to last if you're acting like Belichick.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.